Cool. Well, that's because they're not connected, so that'd be why. I think I just connected them earlier. It's all good though. I don't need them.
But yeah, my computer the sound itself is broken, so it only works with this in.
Headphones.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Gotta love when technology fails on you, right?
Right. Hey, I saw your pastor was with Jeremy Foster and Chris DeRusso and all those guys. Was that this past Sunday?
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool. We just kind of started this, did a little break from the series that we were in called God Over, and started talking about, started a new little mini series in the middle of that called Let's Talk. Just with everything going on with Ahmaud Arbery and things going on in the world, and it's a really cool conversation. Obviously, to have two African American pastors and then two white male pastors kind of just talk about issues is really refreshing, especially right now. You don't see a lot of black people and white people talking about the issues. A lot of people who are just upset or say that the other side is wrong, right? Whether it be white people saying black people are wrong or black people saying white people are wrong. It's refreshing to have people sit down and talk about, let's stop pointing the finger and come to a conclusion that there is something wrong, and only together can we grow from this.
Yeah.
So it was really cool, very touching, moving experience. Sorry, I just got.
Oh, you're good.
People started on live videos, and notification on a live video every 5 seconds.
Right.
Instagram Live has become one of the most utilized features of Instagram in the past month and a half. It's ridiculous.
Man, if I could have put stock in Zoom or something before this all happened, I'd be in a different place.
I'd be a millionaire right now.
Right.
I was like, come on, dude. I want to be living in an apartment, that's for sure.
Right. I hear that.
I'd at least upgrade to a townhouse.
Yeah, I hear that. Man, that's for real.
Been cool, man. How you been? You good?
Great. Yeah, we're good. Like you said, I've just been finding stuff to do. My roommate just built a garden, so we've been kind of messing around with that. I never thought I'd be a gardening type, but he's got a huge one out there, so we're doing that.
You're a gardening type.
Yeah, so that's what we've become. Man, I told him, I was like, you got to get something different. So we got like watermelon, we got the good stuff. I love tomatoes. Squash, zucchini. Everybody hates the fact that I love them too. Like everybody I've talked to so far. But then he threw like beets and horseradish in there. Or I'm sorry, not horseradish, radishes. And I was like, bro, what are you doing with that?
Right.
But some people like them. But I'm just like,
that's out of left field. I've never heard someone willingly plant beets.
Right.
In their garden.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, I was like, man, you're just planting the plant.
That's cool though. Is it cherry tomatoes or regular tomatoes?
Regular ones. Although I do like cherry tomatoes.
All right.
Hey, Brooke Mackenzie, I saw you hopped on. What is up?
Not a big tomato guy.
Oh yeah, I could eat them like apples. That's the weird fact about me. I don't tell many people about that.
You would take a bite out of a full tomato?
Yep.
How much would I have to give you in Starbucks gift cards for you to video that?
Nothing.
For my enjoyment.
I would do that absolutely for free because it'd be my enjoyment.
I understand the cherry tomato. Those things are like grapes. You just pop them in there.
Right.
But a full-on tomato, that's next level right there.
Yeah. I just feel like God's called me to do that. It's the anointing He's given me. So I just eat tomatoes.
Oh, that's it. I just eat tomatoes. Was it called the pastor? I wasn't called the shepherd or lead. I was called to eat tomatoes.
Straight up. Man, but even back to what you were saying about the conversation with the two white pastors and two black pastors. I was just thinking about that while we were talking, but I listened to some of it, like the ideas of like telling telling your kids like like Jimmy Rollins was saying, like he told his son when he got his license, what to do, what not to do, how to act, how not to act, how to play your music, how to not play your music. I was like, so I knew about the fact we have some guys at our church that lovingly tell us if we're being too white, if that makes sense. Like, they'll be like, bro, that's actually offensive, and I'm not offended you said it, but I want you to know that, like, to us, that's not funny. Like, getting stopped and threatened, like, for you guys might be funny, but for us, it's legit. And so we have some people that really bless us with that, just to let us in on that. Because otherwise, like you said, we have no idea. So when he said that stuff, I was like, bro, like, that's not even on my radar, you know? And so it was a really cool conversation to kind of understand better, you know? So I really did like that talk he had.
100%, man. It's not about, you don't have to experience what I experienced to understand that it's real and that you can still empathize with it, right? Like, it may not be your reality, but it's the reality of people that may look different than you. So respecting that reality is really that's all we really ask for, right? Just respect my reality and then help me create a reality where that's not the case anymore, where those aren't conversations that have to be had.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And my thought with that is, like, I can't.
I think.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, with the whole situation, and like as a next gen pastor, like, from kids to 18 years old, like that's what I oversee. So there's a generation of young black males, and obviously predominantly African American church. Like, that's a real fear for my students, like the students that I oversee, that I have a hand in working their relationship out with Christ and being a part of that discipleship process. And that's a real fear. Like, I went on a walk a couple of days ago with some kids from our kids ministry whose parents are on staff, and we were just out walking.
Right.
And they're 6 years old, 4 years old, and they're just having a time of their life, laughing, walking. They don't understand that there's a real threat in the world for being African American and being out walking and wearing your hood, or not responding in the way that someone wants you to, right? Or in a tone that they appreciate could put you somewhere where you never thought you were going to be. So my heart broke, when I started thinking about the next generation, and like, we got to do something better, not just for our world now, but for our kids that are coming. Man, like, it's sad to say that, like, that's the world we live in, and I want to help be a part of the solution on how we change that, right? How do we go to be people who truly love everyone, and that's not a reality for generations to come, but how do we be the change now and affect change in our world? I think as the church is what we're called to do anyway, right?
Gosh, I love that, and I honestly,
this isn't what our conversation is about, but
I'm like,
this isn't what our conversation is about at all.
I just want to stay here for a little bit because I think it's needed, and I would personally love to be a part of that catalyst too, right? Like, the idea of maybe I won't see it in my lifetime, but at least to bring that spark of, like, hey, I don't have to worry about one of my best friends, Cam, having that conversation with his son. And or even saying, like, have you ever heard people be like, it's mostly white people that say it, but it's like, I'm not racist, I have black friends. And then you're like, well, the fact that you just had to, like, pull it out there to say, like, don't worry, there's another color on my side, is kind of like, bro, that's part of the issue. Like, it should just be like, and I know my fiance, she was raised being colorblind, and she kind of talks about the idea of, like, growing up that was cool, but now it's almost like you can't be colorblind because you got to see the issues that are in front of you. Her SU, like, she's taking college courses, and they're talking about oppression, and they're like, it's not even a black or white thing. It's a black, it's a white, it's a Chinese, it's a left, it's a right hand, right? Like, growing up in a right-handed world for left-handers. I'm left-handed, so it's like, obviously, it's not as severe of the oppression for me, right? Like, I'm not worried going out in public and different things like that. But that put a perspective to me, like, man, I would love to be a part of that cause and not just roll over it and be like, well, that's somebody else's problem to fix,
Absolutely.
So
absolutely, man. It's funny you bring up the world designed for right-handed people. It's something I never thought of until I overheard a conversation that Pastor Jimmy was having with another pastor. And he was talking about how when you don't think about it, but like when you walk into a room in a high school and you look at the desk, every desk is set up where the armrest is on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are left-handed, you have nowhere to rest your arm as you write. You have to hold it higher. And obviously it's not the same level, I believe, obviously, of racial oppression or anything like that, or the world being set up for different, races or skin colors. But it's weird when you think about it that way, because it's something that never crosses your mind until you actually look at it as like, oh my gosh, that's real. Like it's just how it's always been, right? Is the thing. It's just how it's always been. This joke has been passed down from generation to generation. This thought about these certain types of people have been passed down from generation to generation. Desks have always been set up for people who are right-handed, generation after generation. And it's like, that's when you see, okay, this problem isn't an isolated incident, but it's actually something that has a root cause somewhere. It's just how do we cut off, the span, or how do we stop the root from growing out any further? How do we capture that thing and make it healthy again?
Yeah, and I love that, because I think knowing that now allows me to go into my nephew's life, right? And before, I didn't know what his life was like. So, like, my sister married her husband, Tony, and they have my nephews and nieces. They're all mixed. So before, I was just kind of like, oh, like, we're just living the same life. Like, my sister is your mom. It's just like that familiarity. Like, it's just familiar. So I'm just like, there's nothing else for you all. But then I hear this conversation about, like, being followed into stores and even some of my close friends, like, when they get pulled over, they get pulled out of the car for no reason. And that's never been a concern for me. And to hear that, I'm like, dang, like, I want to make sure, just like the left-handers living in a right-handed world, like, whatever the right hand is, of whether it's here or in China or anywhere, like, I want to make sure that we're making sure we hear everybody. But we're hearing the left-handers and the right-handers, right? Like, how are we hearing both of those and listening and shaking on it and bringing together things and working to make a better thing? And that, that goes back to the whole thing of the church. It's a body. Like everyone loves the idea of the church is a body, but the church is all about bringing Jesus into the world, like heaven on earth. So we're continually grabbing left hand, right hand, white, black, and like into one body, and really actually owning that, rather than just being like, yeah, we'll just throw somebody on stage and it looks good, and we'll make the pictures and the Instagram look good, but actually being an advocate for like learning about our differences and trying to push for, like, hey, how can we make it better for you guys? How can you make it better for us? Where are we slacking? And like you said, it doesn't happen without difficult conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, all right, let's do it. Let's have fun now, right? That's what the whole conversation was about, right? We got real deep, real quick, and didn't even get to the fun part.
Right. So
I'm excited though.
Let's get into this. So I got. I'm gonna skip the first question just for sake of your time, and we'll just hit it quick. Rewatch one show all over again like it was your first time, or book.
Not my very first time.
Very first
time.
So
here's the thing. I don't read a lot of books, and I feel bad saying that, because you shouldn't do what I do. You should do what you're told, which is to read books. But I did read a really good book in college, but it was like a commentary. So that's not like, I don't know if that really counts as a book I would want to reread, something that I continually go to. But a show I would rewatch. 100. Akilah and the Bee?
Yeah.
Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
100%. I want to watch Akilah and the Bee like it's my first time. There's like so much like, are you going to spell these words right?
Right.
Like it's how I watch National Spelling Bee now. Like, how can these kids spell these words?
Right. And it's crazy.
It's pinnacle. I can barely spell the different theirs right, and they're over here spelling.
You're not kidding. 2 for me has been the hardest thing. There's like 3 versions of it. What to do, what not to do. I'll tell you. It's a crazy story though, bro. There's a girl in our student ministry. Her name's Hannah, and she actually went into a spelling bee kind of as like a joke, just to see what would happen, and she qualified for nationals. Like, she went to regionals, and then she qualified for nationals. But I think she was supposed to end up in D.C., but then this Corona stuff happened, so I don't think she ended up going. But it was just wild.
Well, Hannah, good job. I believe that you would have won the national spelling bee.
Absolutely. Aquila and a bee, that's such a good one. I might have to just rewatch it just to watch it again.
See, there you go. Don't sleep on Aquila.
That's right. I got out on the word chemistry in my spelling bee. I'll never forget that.
You want to hear something that's tough?
What?
When I was in 7th grade, we had Greek and Latin root words, and one of the words in our spelling test was exactly. And I spelled it EGGZACTLY.
I'm never going to spell it the right way again. I'm going to use that every time.
I was like, egg? Exactly. That makes sense, right? Like, this is so far off.
Right.
That was tough.
I love that. That's such a great one. I got to use that more often now. Wait. My next question for you is this. What has been your biggest joy in ministry? What are you enjoying about where you're at right now?
Yeah, so coming up on my first year, like full time in this ministry thing, right? Like been serving in church since I was in 6th grade. I think my favorite thing about ministry, just in general, is I love the walk of like just meeting someone. Let's say it's their first time, and like really just being able to like see how they become connected to the church, get plugged into small groups, get plugged into serving, get plugged into being the hands and feet of Jesus, like then taking that step of like, baptism and proclaiming Jesus as like their savior publicly to the people. I think, my heart has always been to see people know Jesus in a real and intimate way and in a personal way. And I think when you meet someone who just comes to visit the church, right, and then you get to see like the shift of like, I'm just visiting to I'm all in this thing. Mm-hmm. So it's a really cool thing that we do at our church. We have a VIP process that we go through. We actually meet someone and then we follow up with them for 4 weeks. It doesn't have to be 4 consistent weeks, but 4 weeks. And so there's this really great lady that I met through there, and then her daughter ended up starting to come to our student ministry, and her youngest daughter started going to our kids ministry on Sundays, and like this family just became engrafted into everything that we do as a church. And they're louder at the point, like if they need something. So they're in the midst of moving right now, and like one of the first people they reach out to was the church, like, hey, we're moving right now. What does it look like? Do you guys have any resources? Like, we're willing to pay if people are, like just the fact that someone's first call is the church shows us that felt real family and connection and community. And, but they didn't feel that when they first walked into the door because they just Google searched churches near me and saw this weird name, i5. And like, I don't even know what that's about. It's iPhone 5. I don't get it. And ended up coming to the church. And now, you fast forward a couple months and like I met them when they first walked in, and just seeing how connected they've become. I think that's my favorite thing in ministry is just seeing people grow. Right? Like, that's what we all do it for.
Yeah, I love that because I think it all is summarized in the fact of Jesus works. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of times where people probably like, man, you're wasting your life. Like, I don't know if you've heard it, but it's almost like some of your other friends or some people that see you working all the time just to love on people and plan out what's next and all the different things that come with ministry are like, bro, what you could be out there with your degree doing something else, making this money or making that money or buying this car.
Right.
But when you said, like what you said, like when you see a family that goes from a Google search to a home, like there's you can't explain that. And I don't think you can find money to buy that, right? Or at least that's that feeling. Like so I would 100% agree with the process. I think that's such a good and a great thing in ministry. It's a lot of fun. But speaking of ministry, has there ever been a time where you felt like quitting? Or how many times have you ever wanted to quit ministry?
I wouldn't say quit, but I've had a lot of moments where I'm like, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like a lot harder. So when I first came on staff last June, we were launching our second campus in August. And they're like, hey, so glad that you're here. So I oversee 0 to 18 for our church. And it was like, we're about to, launch this other campus. We need an entire kids area. And I'm like, well, I didn't learn how to do that in college. Like, I'm woefully ill prepared for this stage. Like, so I didn't want to quit, but I was like, I don't know if I can do this, right? Like, so that was one moment, and then like, man, just I have a big burden for people. So when I see people struggling, like especially now during COVID, like students calling me with increased anxieties, a lot of seniors upset that they can't graduate. Like, how do we walk through that pain with people and empathize with people in a season that you've never had to walk through? Because I can't say I know what it feels like, because I gotta graduate. I gotta walk across the stage for high school. I gotta walk across the stage, for college. I got to be able to experience. Like, I got those things, right? And now, there's a lot of young people who don't get those things. So like, I would never say that it's been like I want to quit, but it's like, God, if you don't give me the words to say, if you don't give me the peace in this situation, if you don't give me strength to give to these students or these kids, like I can't do it myself. So there's that, and then leading people who are older than you, man, that's a whole different ball game, bro. That's a whole different ball game. So again, never like a quitting, but like a questioning. I would say never quit, but a question. But I think a question is never a bad thing to have. Like, I think of the man who wanted his son healed, and Jesus says, "Well, do you have faith?" And he says, I have faith, like I believe, but help me in my unbelief." And it's never, God saying, there's going to be moments where you don't understand what God is doing. Like, and you're going to be like, are you sure you picked the right person?
Yep.
And in those moments, you have two choices. Like, do you lean into, are you sure it's me? If it is me, here I am, send me. Or are you sure it's me? I'm just going to take a step back and like shelter myself so I don't have to put myself out there. But if you lean into, I don't know, but wherever you send me, I'll go.
Yeah.
Man, you can question all you want. Like, Pastor Jimmy, I think, says it beautifully. My pastor, he goes, there's a difference between being afraid to do it and doing it afraid.
Yeah.
You can be afraid all the time. It doesn't mean that you don't have faith. It just means that you're a human, and you're gonna have to take big steps when you're doing God-sized things and accomplishing God-sized dreams. It's gonna feel like, I don't know if I can handle that. Like those are the things that you're gonna struggle and wrestle and think through. But never quit, man. Never quit. But I think the questioning keeps you humble, keeps you rooted in who actually got you there, who's the person who's using you, who's the person that's going to help guide the situation and point them to where it should be going. Like, all of those things, definitely not easy, but you don't see the benefit. It goes back to, well, I don't know what happens. If I quit, I don't know what will happen if I walk this person from out of their anxiety into their relationship with God and their public dedication to Jesus, and where their life goes from there. I lose opportunity at process if I quit. And so I would rather be all in on a question mark than give up not trying.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna stand and struggle than give up and be on my knees. I'll stand alone and fight by myself if I have to. For anything. If I'm fighting by myself, I'm fighting for God, then I'm good, right?
Right.
So, never quit, but there's been tons of questions.
Yeah. Man, I love that idea of I don't want to quit, but I don't mind questioning, because it's that type of faith that, Peter ends up walking on water because he's questioning. He's like, is that really you? Like, if it is, I'll walk, and it's that idea where it's like, I feel like we all have these out of the boat type moments where it's like, are you sure it's me? Like, you want me to come out? Okay, well, let me see. Like, tell me to come walk in this. And then you walk into the ministry and you love on people, and then you start to see Jesus move through you. And you're like, wow, God, like, thank you for, meeting me in my question. Whereas he can't meet you if you quit. So I love what you said about that.
Absolutely.
It's so much easier to meet in the question than quitting. But also, I think it's just like a cool God thing that, we started this conversation off talking about just the different ideas of being racially not segregated, but just the racism that is around today. But you know how we talked about whether that be Chinese, Hispanic, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
What you said earlier about loving people with experiences you haven't been through, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like the quarantine seniors, you know, like,
Yeah.
of course they're not being oppressed again like other circumstances are, but they are experiencing things that we don't understand unless we have meaningful conversations and we sit down and we show them we care, because obviously we don't know what's going on. So I want to know what it's like to miss out on your base. Like, walk me through your emotions of missing your senior softball season,
Mm-hmm.
or not being able to put on that prom dress, you know?
Yeah.
And then you can, like you said, you can empathize and speak God into them, into those moments. So I just think it's an amazing testament to your character that you bleed the same no matter what area we're talking about, whether it's people who are dealing different circumstances or even different skin colors. It's all the same. We're trying to just love on them and get to know them intentionally.
I love the way Pastor Jimmy had a conversation a couple weeks ago on live, and Pastor Carl said the difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy says, I feel sorry that you're in the mud down there. Like, that must really suck. But empathy says, I'm going to get in the mud and get dirty with you. And I'll never know truly what it's like to understand what it feels like to lose some of those things that, you know, many people are experiencing now, whether it be jobs, whether it be loss of resources, whether it be not finishing the way you thought, not having prom, not, you know, being able to do your senior season, all of those different things. I'll never be able to know what it feels like unless I get down in the mud and say, dude, I can't imagine what you're feeling right now, but I'm sitting in the mud and I'm going to get dirty with you. And I'm going to come up with a way where I can say, hey, how can I best clean you up? What can I do? Can I send you a care package? Can I, you know, shout you out? What can we do to help at least wipe a little bit of the mud off you, get you up, and get you walk into your destiny, into your purpose, man. But to get people up out of the mud, you got to first get in it with them.
Yeah.
And so.
Gosh, that's that's so true. I love that. I'm gonna have to tune in for some of that stuff. Hey, well, I got one more question for you. I think we could stop right now, and it would be great. Like, the content you've already put out is amazing, so I'm thankful for your time. But I do want to ask you one more.
I love it.
If you could go back and tell yourself something in middle school or high school, what would you tell yourself? What would you remind yourself or inspire yourself? What would it be that you'd say to your younger self?
That's a good question, man. It's worth it. It's worth it. So, like, I look at where I am now and experiences that I've had in my life that have allowed me to minister to people that I wouldn't be able to minister to if I hadn't experienced some of those things.
Yeah.
I went through a lot of different things when I was in high school, and I questioned my call when I was in high school. I ran from my call in high school, and I'm not saying it's worth it to run from your call. People call to God, go all in, be all in 100% of the time. And I think there was a really tough season right after my senior year where I felt like I had ran so far away from the call of God on my life that I was never going to get back to it. That there was no way God would ever use me. There's no way God could ever use someone broken. Like, there was a season where I literally thought I spit. Like, I felt, my visualization was I looked God in his face, spit on him, and he wiped it off of his face and just said, give me a hug, I love you, right? Yeah. I can get emotional talking about it right now, but I remember what I felt in that season. I remember what it felt like to experience question, to experience doubt, to experience running away. I got to college and I found out that it's actually this fancy word that starts with an A that I'm probably going to mispronounce, but it's called like apostasy or something like that, where you flirt with running away, but you know that God is still real, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a wasted season. I thought that I had wasted or forfeited the impact that I could have in the future. But what I realized is that God was using those moments of misery, those moments of pain, those moments of just like, what felt like I had destroyed my life. He was using my misery for ministry and my pain for purpose, right? Like he was going to trade all of those things in later if I was just like, hey, if I just realized and said, like, it doesn't matter how far I've run, my God is still open arms waiting behind me. Revelation says, behold, he stands at the door and knocks. And if you open the door, he will come in and eat with you. That's a constant thing that I think I've learned since that season. Like, I'm going to fail, and I'm going to fail bad. I already know it. I fail every day.
Right.
But my God is always knocking on the door, no matter if I feel like he's knocking or not, if I can hear it or not. The knock is there. It's am I tuned into that knock? And so I would just tell myself, man, it's worth it. It's worth it because the impact that you're going to have, the places you're going to go. And I met my fiance because of coming out of that season. I got to my college, where then I met Pastor Jimmy, where then I met I-5, where then I came on staff, and now I get to lead an amazing group of young people at an amazing church, and I'm a part of something amazing and a movement that I feel is rising up in the kingdom right now. And if I would have forfeited my moment of misery, I would have never gotten to the maximum potency of my ministry.
Wow.
If I would have stayed in darkness, I would have never been able to destroy darkness one day.
Yeah.
And what I love is that, and God uses broken 100% of the time.
Yes.
And broken is what he's looking for. And so yeah, that's what I tell myself. Like, it's okay. It's going to be worth it one day.
Yeah.
What you feel right now, feel it. It's real. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel disappointed. It's okay to feel those things. But it's not okay to sit in that.
Yeah.
What you got to do is look at your God, stand up, because he is the God who Jesus said he was moved with compassion when he saw the crowd. He empathizes, right? He's in the mud with us, with a hand stretched out saying, get up, son, get up, daughter, and let's walk out this path, because what I have ahead of you is beautiful. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Come on, spirit can be felt through the screen. Bringing it. Bringing the word.
God is good. I don't know what I'm saying right now. I'm just talking.
Man,
that's all I do.
I can't agree with that feeling more. There's sometimes I'll walk off stage and they'll be like, bro, that hit. And I'm like, I'm glad it did, because I blacked out. Like, I don't even know what happened to
right?
that.
I don't even know what I said.
But, man, God is so – that right there, right? Like, I just want to end on that idea that you've been ringing throughout this whole message. Like, God is working to meet you where you're at, whether it's through someone who doesn't even realize what they're saying, right? Like, God is intervening because he wants to tell someone across the screen right now, hey, I love you, get back up. Like, I don't care how many times you spit in my face. I'll run to you, right? Like the prodigal son. And I'm knocking. I'm consistent. I'll stay in love with you. And I love that. I think that's such a timely word and such a good word for people to hold on to. Because in every season, if you kind of hold on, like you said, to that idea that he's always showing up, knocking, man, it just makes each day worth it. It makes each day easier. Not that you won't struggle, but you at least know that you got a God you're struggling with.
Exactly.
So, man, I appreciate your time. I thank
Absolutely,
you so much. If anything, I feel like I'm changed through this conversation, so it's considered worth it. But, man, I can't wait to just post this back up for the students to see and just
I'm
really
excited,
hear this
man.
out. But, hey, I want to thank you again so much. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. This is the Youth Podcast, Video Podcast, whatever you want to call it. And we'll see y'all next week.
All right, let's do it.